So where is sentiment, Raghu, right now?
Good to be back, Emily. In terms of institutional interest in the space in the short term, Emily, I mean, definitely there is fear. Institutions are being very cautious. And by that, what I mean is they're not taking directional bets. Institutions are focused on market neutral strategies like basis trade without taking directional bet. The second point that institutions are feeling is the idiosyncratic risk that is coming from the liquidation cascades that we've seen in the space for the last 2 months. That's definitely affecting crypto. And most of it, I think, is flushed through the system. But again, for another 2 to 3 weeks, we got to be very careful as a segment. Last but not the least is the correlation, the high correlation to risk on assets, specifically high growth tech stocks. So we think that that correlation is also going to continue for the next few quarters at the very least. But overall, if you look at the long term, we have seen the highest number of customers on board, highest activity on the platform, and that's to say that's bigger than FalconX. And that's to say that institutional interest for the mid to long term on crypto and more broadly digital assets continues to be strong.
Meantime, you've got MicroStrategy buying more Bitcoin. What do you make of the maximalist strategy versus other coins, other options out there?
Yeah. So for a large part of 2021 and continuing into 2022 as well, we've seen a lot of institutions go beyond just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Early part of 2020 and through 2020, later part of 2020 definitely was all centered around Bitcoin, but most institutions diversified beyond Bitcoin into Ethereum and some of the L1s as well. That said, the MicroStrategy's buy of $10 million, I think it's symbolic. It is a very strong signal, despite the market conditions, that they're willing to double down on that. And that is something that a lot of institutions are watching out, because some institutions consider that to be a systemic risk if MicroStrategy rethinks that decision. So that signal is creating very good sentiment in the market.
How is global sentiment evolving? For example, how is it different in the US versus Hong Kong versus, let's say, Australia?
The interesting part is we are actually, over the last month or 2 months, Emily, we're seeing a big divergence between different markets. For example, US is definitely trending towards a much more cautious side. Asia, not as cautious as US, which means they're still exploring altcoins. But more broadly, over the last 1 month, institutions are not taking directional bets, in that all the price movements that we are seeing are largely stemming from the retail side of the equation. So US is, in summary, US is tending towards the more conservative side. Asia, slightly more aggressive than the US, but holistically, as a space, institutions are being very cautious.
Now, you recently raised $150 million in a new round of funding, $8 billion valuation. And as I understand it, this funding came together in just a couple of weeks. How did you manage to pull this off in, a very dismal market?
The market conditions in 2022 are very different, Emily, to your point. Yes, this is a very recent round, as recent as about 2-3 weeks back. And again, the big hypothesis that us and some of the highest quality investors for growth stage are seeing right now, and we're seeing data to prove this hypothesis. The hypothesis is that crypto, for the first time, objectively proved that you can run full stack financial services, whether it's trading, banking, credit, clearing, all of these services 24/7, truly globally and truly elastically. No company, no country so far has objectively proved that that can be possible. And crypto has done this at a $1 trillion scale. Now, that is what we see in terms of the future of finance to be, right? I mean, a lot of world's value is going to be tokenized. We are actually seeing the data underneath that. As a result, despite the very tough market conditions, Q1 we've remained profitable as a company. Q1 we onboarded the highest number of customers, and Q1 we had the highest engagement in the platform. And that actually is because of the bigger thing at play, which is the digital asset transformation. We think equities and fixed income markets in the next 5 to 10 years are going to be tokenized as well, and institutions want to play in that tokenized world.
I have to ask where you stand in this debate. Are you a maximalist? Are you more of an Ethereum, other coin kind of guy?
I do see, blockchains to be in some business constructs, you can compare them to marketplaces. Any marketplace has economies of scale and network effects. Bitcoin undoubtedly has the biggest network effects, compared to any other, cryptocurrency. But that being said, I don't think Bitcoin alone will cater to every single use case that's out there. So definitely, I do think the world is bigger than Bitcoin, but I don't think it is 5,000 tokens either. So it's going to be a head-heavy equation with 5, 10 getting the lead in a meaningfully large way.